Good morning out in Oldish-land. How are you today? I hope you're having a great Wednesday. We here in southwestern Ontario have had a really cold and snowy snap in the last little while. You may hear I have a bit of a cold. I'm just getting over that. That was the reason why I skipped last week's broadcast. I literally couldn't speak, which for some people is a good thing, I suppose, but it was not a good thing to contemplate doing one of these broadcasts and just being able to speak barely above a whisper. So today we are in the Oldish's studio, and you can see behind me some of the stuff we have there, and we're gradually getting things all set up for you. So let's talk, first of all, as we usually do, about the articles of note that have been published in the Oldish. And since we missed last week, we'll go over a couple of weeks of articles in case you missed them. So first of all, I should tell you who I am, I suppose. There I am. I'm the editor and publisher of the Oldish, and my name is Karen. So thank you for inviting me into your computer, wherever you happen to be. So let's look at the articles then for the last couple of weeks. We'll start off on a bit of a grim note. Retiring early can be deadly for men. Did you know that? It doesn't surprise me. So many men get their identity from their job, and when they no longer have that job, even though they think of retirement sometimes as the golden ticket and I'm going to do this, and this in my retirement, when the thing that defined their identity is gone, that's a problem. So studies have been done on this now, and that article is there for you, talking about how to make it a bit less deadly, particularly if you're a man. Have you ever thought about braces? I had braces on my teeth, and we're not talking about braces for your knees or your backs. We're talking about braces on your teeth. I had braces on my teeth a few years ago. I was in my 50s, and a friend of mine also had braces at the same time. He's a little bit older than me, but he much better. I can smile and not feel self-conscious about my teeth. My problem was that my fangs were sticking out. I didn't like that one single bit. So it turns out that a lot of senior citizens and older people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they are getting braces on their teeth and correcting problems that weren't corrected when they were in their teenage years. I know it's very cool now to have braces. It seems like all the cool kids have braces and they change up their colors every week, and it's kind of a mark of maturing that you do get braces. But when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, so that'd be back in the 60s and 70s, braces were not cool. They were totally not the cool thing to do. So at any rate, when I was in my 50s, back there, because I'm terrified that if I take the band off, they'll all smork back into place. The old place, that is, not the new place where I want them to be. So anyway, there's an article about braces because it turns out that I am just simply not alone. There's a new shingles vaccine. Have you heard about it? It is called Shingrix. Shingrix. Now it replaces the vaccine that you're probably more familiar with, which is called Zostavax. Zostavax had a 51% effective rating for shingles. So for those of you who aren't aware, shingles is part of the chickenpox virus. And if you've had chickenpox, which many of us did as a child, you then are liable, it's possible, you could get shingles as an adult. Not necessarily as an elderly adult, just as an adult, although it typically does affect elderly people. So getting this vaccine of Zostavax with 51% effectiveness rate seemed like a pretty good deal. Get this though, Shingrix has a 97% effectiveness rate. 97. We're not sure yet which jurisdictions are going to cover the cost of this vaccine for seniors. In Ontario, which is my home province, the cost of the Zostavax was covered by our Ontario health insurance plan. Other people who are still working may have coverage that is extended health that may cover a range of other things. So you may already have coverage for Shingrix and not know it. We're waiting to find out if the Ontario government is going to cover the Shingles vaccine for seniors the way that they do now with Zostavax. So keep your eye on that. And if you are eligible, please get it, because shingles are not pretty. They're really not pretty. We did an article on what's in and what's out for aging seniors in 2018. And I'm going to let you go have a look at that, and you can determine for yourself if you are in the in crowd or in the out crowd. So take a look at that. Learn to fall to prevent injuries. So this is my wheelhouse, preventing falls and injuries that result from falls. I have a deep and broad knowledge of this. And this course is being given in the Netherlands right now. I remember very clearly when I was a kid, my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, saying that when he was in the army, so this would be for World War II, that part of their training was to learn to fall. And they practiced it so often that it just became part of second nature for them. So as an aging senior, whenever he fell, he just rolled, and he was never hurt beyond the odd bump or bruise. This course that they're teaching seniors in Holland is aiming to do the same kind of thing. Now, I had somebody on the Facebook page, when I posted that article there, comment and say that she is a practitioner of Tai Chi, and that one of the things that they learn and practice in their Tai Chi practice is complete and total relaxation. And she has found that whenever she has fallen, that this training has benefited her. Because of course you don't learn to fall and then it all of a sudden kicks in if you haven't practiced it for months or years. You do have to practice it. So that maybe makes a case for more people to take Tai Chi. Now you can find Tai Chi classes in your communities. If you don't want to join that, check out YouTube. Just go on YouTube and search for Tai Chi. Now, you may have to search around a little bit to find a broadcast that suits you, but it will certainly teach you the basics and the practice of Tai Chi. So that's something we should all be doing as aging seniors, is doing any kind of exercise that helps us with our balance. So check that out, but do check out this course in the Netherlands that is going on. The Netherlands, Holland. You know, my brother is married to a Dutch woman, and so they speak Dutch, but they live in the Netherlands, and we typically call it Holland. So I'm not quite sure what sense the Dutch make of that, but I digress. Sleep. Be surprising that people who are caregivers do have difficulty sleeping. If they are looking after a husband or a wife who happens to be a wanderer, then you've always got that ear open if they get out of bed in the night and start wandering, because many people with dementia do wander at night. So, you know, in the daytime as well, it's just exhausting for so many caregivers to look after somebody 24/7. And somebody who, perhaps with dementia, isn't necessarily on your timeline. They may be thinking that they are back in the day, or they may not recognize who you are. I mean, there are just so many challenges that come up that it is emotionally resistant. So, you know, we should give them their due for sure. But if you are a caregiver who is having difficulty sleeping, you need to take care of that, because, you know, there was another statistic that came out that I read somewhere. I read a great deal about aging problems, and it is not uncommon for caregivers to die before the person that they are giving care to. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think it surprised me a little that somebody had actually thought to do a study on it, but it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that this is the case. So if somebody in your family is a caregiver, think about giving them a bit of respite. taking over their job for a bit to let them just go and sleep. Just go and sleep somewhere. Get a good night's sleep without worrying. Get a full day in without worrying. That would be a godsend to them. That's a good gift to give somebody. But do read this article about sleep problems among caregivers. We also did an article about revisiting your medication checklist. We have a medication checklist. We talk about that often. It's on the Oldish.com. You do have to be a member. The reason you have to be a member is because you need to have a password protected space, because the information that you're entering for a medication checklist or any of the other tools that we have there is personal and private. The membership costs you nothing. It's simply a way of putting you behind that firewall and keeping your information safe and for your eyes only. But your medication checklist, it is time for you, as the new year has flipped over, it's 2018, to take a look at the medication checklist you have now. If you have one, I hope you do, and make sure that it's up to date. Take off the things that no longer are pertinent, put on the things that are relevant, and make sure that at your very first appointment with your healthcare team this year, you take that medication checklist with you and review it. That's actually a really good New Year's resolution to make. And if you don't have a checklist, get one. For heaven's sakes, get one. Myths about aging. There was an article that was done on that, and it's actually pretty interesting. There are a lot of myths about aging seniors. Everything from their ability to learn new things, to their physical movements, to their sexuality. The myths are just rampant, and about 10 of them are addressed on that article about myths about aging. So if you are suffering from the disease of myths about aging, go see it. Because, sometimes myths become truth. Sometimes a myth is repeated to us over and over again until it becomes our personal truth. Just looking at sexuality, for instance, if people constantly tell you that old people shouldn't have sex, that's a part of the day gone by, eventually you might come to believe it. Nothing is further from the truth. It may be less often. It may be longer and more luxurious. You don't know until you do it. And it depends on your relationship with your partner. But don't give it up just because somebody else tells you you should give it up because you're elderly and that shouldn't be in your mind anymore. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Don't do that. Don't fall in love with that. A new article that was just posted in the last day or two involves statin drugs and who should be using them and who shouldn't be. Now, in case you don't know what a statin drug is, it's used to control cholesterol. But there are some misgivings about people over the age of 70 who are continuing to use statins. Go read that article. And if you're one of the people who is on statins, put that on your list to discuss with your doctor or your family care provider, whoever that may be. For some of you, it may be a nurse or a nurse practitioner. Put that on your list and take a look about it. So, oldish news. Well, this is a new thing that I decided to put into the broadcast to see what people around the world were talking about with regard to old people. And there's some really fun stuff. There's some exhausting stuff. The Nikkei newspaper is reporting that 3 Japanese paper companies are expanding their manufacturing facilities for what they are politely calling incontinence products because the demand is surging. Can you believe it? The demographic of aging people is increasing, and with it, the demand for incontinence products is also surging. And in fact, surging. It is surging. And this newspaper article is from year 20. The demand for adult incontinence briefs will outpace the demand for baby diapers. True. I can believe it. In track and field, God, this is fascinating and it exhausts me. Records in the over 70 years of age divisions are being broken left, right, and center. 31 of the 35 records set in men's competitions in track and field have happened this century. But get this, in the women's competition for those in the age group of 70 to 74, every single track and field record has been smashed, absolutely smashed, in the last 15 years. Most of those in the last 5 years. Doing it. This is awesome. The 100-meter dash to the decathlon. And in swimming, a woman named Jean Troy shattered 4 world records in one competition. Her age category, 90 to 94. Jean, you put me to shame. You absolutely put me to shame. There was an Ironman competition held in Venice, California, and a woman named Nancy Downs, who is 71 years of age, completed her second triathlon, which starts with a 2.4-mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike race, and concludes with a marathon run of 26.2 miles. Are you kidding me? Her second one, and she's, what did I say, 71? She's 71. 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike race, and a 26.2-mile marathon run. This woman works out 6 times a week, often with a trainer. Unbelievable. You are putting us to shame, but you are certainly shattering that myth, any myth that says you can't because you're old. These people can because they're old, and they are breaking the records to prove it. That is really amazing. I am thrilled. So we do have a question of the week for you this week, and it comes from a person named Gary, who has quite clearly been watching the Dragon's Den. Gary wants to know if there's any truth to the claims made by NeuroConnect about balance. Well, we wanted to know too. For those of you who maybe aren't watching the Dragon's Den or who don't know about this, NeuroConnect is a pitch that was made on the Dragon's Den. So for our American listeners, Shark's Tank is the American version of Dragon's Den. Same kind of thing. Businesses go in, they make their pitch, and they try to get an investment. So this gentleman, who I believe is a chiropractor, went into the Dragon's Den, and he pitched this product. It's called NeuroConnect. And on the little card that it comes with, it says it optimizes balance and joint function, improving your ability to balance, control movement, and maintain strength. So obviously I was intrigued by this, and I went and I got one of these, and I've been wearing it. This is what it is, this little pin. Now, the principle that it works under is something called quantum entanglement. Don't ask me to explain that to you. I have read the definition 7 or 8 times, and I don't understand it, but it has something to do with transmission to the nerves. But what you do with this little pin is you pin it on your midsection. So, like that. I've actually pinned it to my bra oftentimes to try it out to see if it makes any kind of a difference. I can tell you that when the pitch was being made to the Dragons, this gentleman said that he had taken this little pin down to a golf show in Florida and was awarded Best New Product. And with the golfers, they put one on the midline and one on each pant leg. And apparently it made a difference to their swings. Go figure. So I have been wearing it, and I do notice a difference in balance. I don't know if it's because of the idea being put in my head and that somehow this seems like a good idea, so therefore it is, or because quantum entanglement, which is a real thing, really does work and is represented by this little pin. So let me just hold it up a little closer to the camera here and let you see it. NeuroConnect, little pin, just clips, oops, I'm moving off to the wrong side, clips onto your clothing at the midsection. Not expensive, it's like $40 or $46, something like that. But the gentleman who invented this is in Owen Sound, Ontario. I can tell you that when the Dragons were debating this, whether or not they should invest in this product, none of them wanted to be out, but none of them wanted to be in too much. They were afraid of losing it all. So what happened ultimately, I believe, was 5 dragons went in on this, and they split it. So everybody's got a little stake, but not so much that they can lose it and really have to be anxious. If you're interested in trying it out, the company is NeuroReset Incorporated, Inc. And it's www.neuroreset.ca. So if you're interested in finding out whether this is the next big thing or a bunch of hooey, you can try it out too. I'm going to continue to wear it from time to time, and I'm going to see if I can find any differences. It's pretty easy now that it's winter, because when I go out walking, my balance is a little bit off. So anyway, thank you, Gary, for that question. And that certainly prompted me to go out and buy one of these. And I actually buy a lot of Dragon's Den and Shark's Tank products. They're so interesting and innovative so much of the time. I hadn't necessarily thought I couldn't resist. Could not resist. So coming up on the Oldish, now we've got some really interesting interviews coming up. So you're not just going to have to listen to me blithering away. I'm going to share the screen of shows with a bunch of really interesting people. So one of the people I mentioned to you in the past is the OPP, which is our Ontario Provincial Police. We are going to do a session with an officer who specializes in doing a presentation to seniors on scams. So that'll be really interesting. He's going to tell us about the phone scams, the email scams, the door-to-door scams, and then we're going to bring him back in the spring, because he also does a presentation to community dwelling seniors about making sure that your house is burglar. I'm not going to say burglar proof, because I was just about to say burglar proof, and that's not burglar proof, but it's not inviting to burglars. So we didn't want to do that in the winter, because if you heard all of this good information, then you wouldn't necessarily be able to go outside and do a walk around of your house and see if any of these things are affecting you. So we're going to bring him back in the spring. So we're going to do 2 sessions with our OPP officer. We have a session coming up with a gal named Christina Godbolt, who is the founder of a company called Nurse Navigator. Many of you may be aware of nurse navigators now. They are often employed within hospitals specifically. So the hospital employs this navigator, and the navigator's function is to walk people through the world of healthcare as pertains to their specific need at the moment. So Christina has started a company that is independent of all hospitals. And if you are faced with a healthcare challenge, whether it's with a child, a teenager, a young adult, or an aging senior, you can make use of their services and have somebody there to guide you through the process who's been there before. These are nurses who understand the system and will guide you. So, understand that for many of us, if we are dealing with a specific situation, say our partner is diagnosed with cancer, and we maybe want a second opinion, and we don't know how to choose between these treatments, and we don't know what the timeline is, and it's also confusing because it's so upsetting in the moment when you receive that diagnosis. You don't necessarily remember everything that the doctor tells you at the doctor's appointment, because it's a bunch of words that are medical jargon that you maybe don't understand. Nurse Navigator has you covered for this. So we're gonna have a chat with Christina in the upcoming weeks, and we're going to walk through the services that the Nurse Navigator provides and how you can get in touch with them and what the costs are, the whole 9 yards. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk with Dr. Ellen Shapiro, who is a veterinary doctor, who is going to talk with us about 2 things: aging seniors and their pets. So as an aging senior, you may have a pet who may not be an aging pet, just any old pet, the kinds of things that an aging senior with challenges might need to know about in order to keep their pet happy and healthy. Part B of that is that we're going to talk with Dr. Shapiro about aging pets. So I know that the last 2 dogs I have had, I adopted as aging dogs. My chocolate lab, Mallory, was middle-aged. She was about 8 years old when I got her, and I had her for 5 years before she passed. My most recent pet, Spirit, some of you may have seen that in some of my social media. That sweet boy passed away last week. He was almost 10 when I got him. I had him for nearly 2 years. So, you know, he was definitely an aging senior, and he was complex care. He was a complex care patient. And I know that we're familiar with that term with two-legged complex care patients. He was a four-legged complex care patient. And as I say, just passed away last week, and I miss him terribly. But we are going to talk with Dr. Shapiro about those two things, aging seniors and aging pets. The last person I want to tell you about is Mara Gordon. She is the founder of Aunt Zelda's, which is a cannabis medicine company. She's based in California. North of San Francisco is where she lives, so we'll be talking to her from her office in her Aunt Zelda's office, north of San Francisco, west of Santa Rosa. Aunt Zelda's is actually a really fascinating company, and they have 3 different components. So I'll let Mara tell you about that, where we're going to discuss the different kinds of interviews we're going to do with her, because we've already decided that one is not enough. It's too much information. So we're probably going to break it down, but I'm calling this Cannabis Medicine 101. So for those of you who have heard about cannabis medicine, want to know what it is, how it's used, understand the terminology, understand what questions you should be asking your doctor, because it's legal in Canada. Cannabis medicine is legal in Canada with a prescription, but you need to understand what this medicine is. It's like any other medicine. You need to know. I am definitely a proponent of cannabis medicine, not to the exclusion of regular pharma. I think that there is a place for both. So Mara is the expert on cannabis medicine, and she's after our meeting tomorrow, and we'll promote them so that you know which ones you might want to join in for. You'll probably want to join in for all of them because it's such a new field, and I think that you'll probably be really interested in hearing all of the things that Mara has to tell us. So we have some other interviews that are in the pipeline, but these are the ones that are confirmed that I can tell you about, and we'll get some dates available for those and let you know when you can join in. And you can submit your questions either ahead of time or during the show. That'd be fine. And we have the ability with this technology to put questions up on the screen in real time so that they can see them and answer them for you. So that'd be great. So that's it. That's it for now for the Oldish.com. Please join us next Wednesday. This time slot of 12 noon is one that we moved to. We had been at 10 o'clock in the morning, but we were finding that some of our viewers on the left coast or the west coast of Canada and the US were finding it a bit challenging to join us because it would be 7 o'clock in the morning their time. So we moved it to noon, which would be 9 o'clock on the west coast, in the hopes that this would be a better time for our viewers there. And we hope it is. Please let us know. In any event, this program is archived, and we download the program ourselves and put it on YouTube, but it's also archived on our Facebook page, so you can watch it after the fact as well. And please feel free to ask any questions that you might have. We will monitor them and see the questions and get them answered for you. So there is our website, www.theoldish.com, where you can go and get articles on a almost daily basis. We publish 6 times a week. So you can go there always and get the articles. On our Facebook page, we publish articles a couple of times a week, and the same with our Instagram. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're everywhere. We are everywhere. So please join us on any of those platforms that make sense for you and that make you happy. Contribute your opinions to the stories that we publish. Sometimes the stories that we published are stories that we find elsewhere. They're not necessarily stories that are published on the Oldish.com. Sometimes they are curated from the big wide world out there, and we're always interested in your opinions and thoughts. So until next week, have a great time. Enjoy your week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye, everyone.